Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. We are here just a few days before the Cowboys' first preseason game gets underway. Should be quite a bit of fun for that. We'll be live for that game, of course. We also had a video, I should say, earlier today as the Cowboys had cut Tristan Vizcaino, and now Brandon Aubrey is the lone kicker on the Cowboys roster. So is he the answer? Y for yes, N for no. This is the pinned comment, by the way, on this video here. So get those votes in. Y for yes, N for no. Vote in the poll as well. And we'll give some shout-outs here a little bit in just a moment as well here. See Luis Rodriguez. Rick says hi. But the question is Brandon Aubrey the answer at the Cowboys kicker? I see no's from Joe Linden. Unitive says no. Food Review is back as well. Luis Rodriguez says no. Oh, Food Review's got law school in 20 minutes. Have fun, I suppose. Corey O'Neill says no. Leroy Pearson Jr. says no. Dan, there's a lot of no's in there. In fact, I have yet to see a single yes. Toxic Tom Downey burner account says as of now, yes by default. No. Carson says get Greg the leg. We went through that. It wasn't a good process. He's now with the Jets anyway. Highly unlikely. Nah, fam. No. It's 75%, by the way, are voting no in the pinned poll at the moment. Which Nick Folk from David Elswick, we mentioned him in the video on the release of Tristan Vizcaino earlier today. That's my guess. Because he's not going to win the job, and it's going to go to Chad Ron. They spent a fourth-round pick on him like crazy people. So I'll just take Nick Folk once he gets cut. The problem is, you have to wait a little bit. He's not going to be available for a few more weeks. So you just got to be patient. I think your spot, as challenging as that might be. ESPN2 is in the comments section. That's pretty funny. It says Micah for Justin Tucker, who says no. Even the Eagles say no on behalf of the Cowboys. That's how bad of a trade that is. Ecuador Man says no. Luke D says me for kicker. No, I can't kick. Also, I would suddenly become less than human. So I don't have much interest in doing that. Although that said, maybe deeper idea here, sign me as the kicker, have no faith in my abilities, and therefore never kick. Solution granted right there, because now you're just going for it from that perspective. David's asking about Kai Forbath. Kai Forbath's been out of the league for a few years. He was good that one stint with Dallas, and then he never really latched on anywhere else. I think his time in Dallas was an outlier relative to the rest of his NFL career, frankly. All right, next question. We've got some new odds that say Mike McCarthy is the betting favorite to be the first head coach fired this year, which I don't really agree with. But will Mike McCarthy be the Cowboys head coach in 2024? 1 for yes, he will. 0 for no, he will not. He'll get fired. It'll be somebody else, Dan Quinn, etc. Get those answers in, and we'll give some shout-outs here as well. 1 for yes, 0 for no. Got Jerry, King Trail, Toxic, Daniel, Lone Wolf, Chris, Jason, Bruno, Food Review, all typing in 1 for yes, along with Ethan. First 0 from David. We got Dustin, the DJ Master, trying to do the no audio trick. Nice try. Nice try. We were born in that. It's a good effort, but we're not falling for the no audio trick, my friend. It's funny though. Ecuador Man says 1. There's a lot of 1s in there, and my burner account's trolling about Jason Garrett. I think the best case outcome is he's back as the Cowboys head coach. Hopefully, because he proved that you can't fire him because they had so much success. That's the best case outcome from that perspective. Producer Chris, prediction time. 1 for yes. 0 for no. Is Mike McCarthy back as the Cowboys head coach next year?
I'm going to say yes.
You're going to say yes?
I'm going to say yeah. You better hope. Because if he's not back this year or next year, that means they're bad this year. And do you want them to be good or bad?
Want them to be good.
You better hope it's a yes.
I hope it's a yes.
Yeah.
That's the disembodied voice of producer Chris, by the way. 74%-ish saying 1 for yes, which I think makes sense. Now, we will be live for the Cowboys' first preseason game. We're going to do a great watch party, have some fun, got some giveaways planned for you guys. Who you got winning in a game that doesn't really impact, the end result doesn't matter. This is very much more about the journey than the destination of a game. It doesn't, you can lose 23-10, and if certain players looked really good, that's going to end up with a good result there. So who you got? C for the Cowboys, J for the Jags. I am in a poll because I don't remember what it even is. Cowboys preseason history, what they've done in recent years. If I can even find it from that perspective. It's not like easily available. Preseason records by year. This is not an easy Google search the way I thought it was going to be. That makes me very disappointed. Let's see. I guess I can go by year here. So last year, remember they lost to Denver, beat the Chargers, beat Seattle. Okay, that was a good result there. 2021 Hall of Fame game, lost to Pittsburgh, lost to Arizona, lost to Houston, lost to Jacksonville. 2020, that's right, COVID happened, so there was no preseason games there. Lost to San Francisco, beat the Rams, beat Houston in a blowout, lost to Tampa. In the end, there is zero correlation results-wise to injuries, outside of injuries, and like the win-loss results do not matter at all in the preseason. But you guys get your votes in. C for the Cowboys, J for the Jags. I see Cam in London say C. Ecuador man on the live show, will there be tortilla slaps? There will be an option for tortilla slaps. I promise you on that front. There will be an option for tortilla slaps. We have the plate here again today. I still have not picked up the tortillas. I'm going to save them for tomorrow. But if you want to do $50 super chat, we can do a plate slap. But there will be tortillas for the watch party. I figure at this point we might as well just hold off and have it from that perspective. We will keep doing $20 for shots for watch parties and just normal live shows as well. Let's do some more predictions here. How many sacks will Micah Parsons have this year? This has been I think the best player. It is not a ceramic plate. It's a paper plate because otherwise going to be doing a paper plate slap and then come back on screen and I'm two-faced and half my face is bleeding. Sounds like a terrible idea. How many sacks will Micah Parsons end up with this year? 24, 17, 161 and a half, or maybe you mean 16 and a half. That would probably make more sense. 14.5, 18.5, 24, 16. Yes, from Lone Wolf. That's a good answer. Yes. That's actually, I like that one. 15, 19, 22, 18, 24, and a 69 from Luis Rodriguez. 10.5, 18.5, all of them from Winston Shan, whose profile pic is like a picture of me from like grade school, or maybe it was high school. I'm not sure. It was I think maybe it's my LinkedIn profile picture. I don't remember what it is. I haven't touched whatever it was in like 10 years because I'm old now. 17, 18, 16, 11.5, 18.5, maybe the record. It's doable. With as many games as you play now, that extra game can get you over the edge. So I wouldn't totally rule it out. We got 18.5, 21, and I think that's 11. 24 from Johnny as well. A super chat, first one of the day. $5 from a tennis ball smacked my nuts. Producer Chris loved that one. He's over there geeking in the corner. Yeah, there you go. My ball sacks finally recovered from that terrible loss. New ball sacks, new season, baby. You can do that? Medical science has come that far? I'm kidding. Anyway, look, new season. I think you're kind of in a similar spot, unfortunately, from like talent level. I think you're still the third best team in the NFC behind Philly and San Francisco, but the NFC East curse is real. Niners still have quarterback question marks, so maybe this year will be different. At least you're in the mix for it, and it would be in the end. December matters. January is what matters the most for this Cowboys team, and that will continue to be some stressy months. How about that? Another $5 super chat from Sam. Hey, Tom, I have this delusional Washington fan of a friend who thinks McLaurin is 100 times better than CeeDee Lamb. What's your opinion? I would not get on board with 100 times better than CeeDee Lamb. I also totally understand why a Commanders fan would love McLaurin. I would put Lamb ahead of him, but it's not by much. I think both those guys are in the same tier of like young wide receiver ones. I think McLaurin, Brown, and Lamb are all in the same tier. They do some different things. They play different styles. All three teams are super happy with their wide receiver. They're worth every cent they're paid or will be paid. And also the Giants are very jealous. From Mark, $5. Aloha Tom, I heard Farniak is really sucking. Any good guards out there or good tackles where Tyler can move to guard? O-line is our weak spot. Jerry Jones needs help. I have been pretty, maybe whelmed is the term I'd use for Matt Farniak. Every time I consistently hear, the Cowboys like him. Every time I see him, it's like, I'm unimpressed. It is a little bit tricky. And I'm sure we've all seen all of the highlight clips from camp, right? But the highlights only get posted when the defensive lineman wins. Like, you don't often see O-line win reps because those are boring. Those don't get the engagement, so to speak. So Dalton Reisner stands out to me. I don't love any of the tackles. Maybe somebody gets moved around roster cutdown time. Maybe you trade a defensive lineman for one. But I am most concerned, outside of maybe kicker, about the offensive line depth. Appreciate all those Super Chats, guys. Thank you all so much. We'll hit all three of them in the mailbag that's coming up later on today here. Who will be RB2 is our next question here for the Cowboys. MD for Malik Davis, RD for Rico Dowdle, DV for Deuce Vaughn, our small king, and HL for Hunter Lipke. We'll take Ronald Jones off that list since Jones is, both suspended and now hurt. We'll break that down in the news and rumors portion coming up here in a little bit of today's show. Who will be RB2 of the guys on the roster? MD, RD, DV, HL. I want it to be Deuce Vaughn. I suspect he might be more in kind of like a carved-out role. Maybe some more pass-catching focused stuff there, but I think he continues to look good. I'm excited to see all these guys in the preseason. Lipke's been fairly quiet. He had a tricky catch that wouldn't go very well from that perspective. MD from Joe Bentley, MD, DV, DV, RD, MD, or DV, EE from Jeremy Chuggs' burner. I assume that refers to Ezekiel Elliott. We have more reports on him we'll get to here in a little bit. But first, another super chat from Mark, $2. Did you and Chuggs get your goodies? Aloha. We did, Mark. Thank you very much. We'll save some of them and use them on the watch parties here in a little bit. But we appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mark. You are the best, my friend. Thank you. Before we get today's show going, we only have 39 likes, and we got about 300 people watching. That's a very it's a mediocre at best ratio. It makes me kind of sad. So help us out. Like the video. I don't think we should get started until we get to what? At least 50? Maybe 69? Yeah, see, Chris said it that time. Not me. Chris said it, even though he's right. Let me get 69.
I think it's a staple of the show.
Yeah, because we're mature.
Yeah.
We already blew past that, by the way. So that one was pretty easy. Maybe we set too low of a bar from that perspective. But we appreciate everyone who likes the videos that we put out here. Every time you like the video, it just helps us. It tells YouTube you like the content. They'll continue to feature it, and we can continue to grow here at the Cowboys Report. Here's what's coming up on today's live show. Quite a bit of Cowboys news and rumors, including some injury updates, training camp takeaways as well. We will have a Week 1 preseason preview against the Jags. Injuries and winning. Well, injuries in terms of not having anyone get hurt, important, but who's banged up doesn't matter nearly as much as it does for a real game. A Cowboys mailbag. I will make notes. We have a massive amount of super thanks to get to, so if you want to get on the show, you can still use hashtag Cowboys in the comment section, but you'll also probably want to do a super chat to ensure that. We'll also break down my preseason Week 1 roster projections for the Dallas Cowboys. You'll need that intro video there, Chris. All this is coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. If you have questions, get them in. Super chats. I think the only way we can really guarantee stuff today, because a lot of super thanks. Again, thank you all very much. Let's get today's show started. The latest on the Dallas Cowboys from training camp is made possible by Manscaped. You can get 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. We've got some more Dak Prescott extension talk to begin today's show as Jeff Howe of The Athletic seems to be doing a bit of a training camp tour, and these are always a little bit dicey for me because they tend I'll call them the more national reporters come flying in. They drop a tidbit of information, then bounce, and sometimes that information they dropped is either a bit outdated or sometimes maybe just a bit exaggerated. He reports the Cowboys and Dak have had contract extension talks, which isn't actually new, and there's nothing imminent at this stage for the Cowboys. Now, an extension, and this is part of the argument he lays out here, would lower Dak's 2024 cap hit. Wouldn't carry much, if any, impact on the 2023 cap hit, but next year, when you'll start to feel more of those extension numbers hit from guys like, potentially Terrence Steele, CeeDee Lamb, etc., Trayvon Diggs will be felt a bit more, then it start to make sense there. Here's what Jeff Howe of The Athletic wrote on the Dak extension talk. Says the Cowboys and Prescott have had early discussions about a new deal, according to a league source. Doesn't sound like anything is imminent, but there's obvious motivation to knock down that 2024 cap hit while they address potentially massive extensions for Parsons and Lamb. Now, this isn't really new information. There have frankly been a lot of talks, not just between Dak and the Cowboys, but between Dak and Lamb. There's been approached conversation between Dak and Steele. The Cowboys kind of under the radar got an entire deal done with Malik Hooker and the Cowboys. So what gets tricky and complicated here for this particular deal is just the sheer volume of money involved. It is such a massive contract. There's natural sticker shock involved. And the quarterback market only continues to go up. It's not that long ago in which Dak was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and people were very, very upset by that because it was so much money. But then, Matthew Stafford and Josh Allen and Mahomes and less deserving quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson, Massage Boy, and Kyler Murray got huge deals. Now Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert have all reset the market all in a row, and Joe Burrow will also reset the market. I don't think a Dak extension has to put him at the top. I think it could put him above where he's at currently. Maybe somewhere between that Wilson-Watson deal is fair, given what those three players look like since they got paid. Answer's not very good. You're worried about the way Dak's played. He's better than those dudes. But the question of the day is this. Would you extend Dak Prescott? I have an idea that I know not everyone will agree with, but I think enough can get on board with the logic behind it that maybe it won't be as divisive as it normally is in the comment section. So go vote at the pinned comment first. Why for yes and for no? Would you guys extend Dak Prescott? Look, extending Dak does get his cap hit down in 2024. And I think that is important to remember when you've got other guys to pay. When you want to pay Micah and you want to pay Lamb and you've already paid Trayvon Diggs, and you in theory could give some more money maybe to Zack Martin as well. So here's my plan. I think it makes sense, of course. Maybe you guys agree or disagree. My plan, and this will be the controversial part, extend Dak this offseason. Don't wait, because then you lose even more leverage when Dak can't be franchise tagged next year. He has a no-trade clause, and you kind of enter a dangerous position where he's got all the leverage over you. Do a 4 or 5 year deal, whatever it looks like. I'm not actually that concerned. And what I would do in this new window you've created for your 30-year-old quarterback is to push hard to win in that window. You know those deals for Gilmore and Cooks we've all liked so much? Do more of those. Know how you've been near the bottom of cash spending? Don't be anymore. And what I would do is maximize this window, that 4, 5, 3, whatever year long it ends up looking like window, and go try to win some damn football games in January and February. If you win, we are all happy. We are all excited. We are all over the moon. If you don't, if your window is bad and things do not go the way you want, maybe you fire McCarthy, new head coach is a disaster, whatever, at that point, you tank and rebuild. Because the alternative here is if you don't want to pay Dak, he's got leverage over you, now you're overpaying. Again, you spend more money than you needed to if you had just done it earlier. And I am of the mindset, either have a highly paid quarterback or have a cheap one on a rookie contract. What you do if you kind of try to play the middle ground of you give Dak a little deal, but you don't go all the way in. If you don't tank and rebuild, then you're caught in the middle. You're caught in this commander's range where you have a good team overall, but you don't have the franchise quarterback, and you're going to win 6 or 7 games and be outside the range to get that top pick anyway. So you should actually embrace the suck. And at that point, that backloaded contract doesn't matter because you want to have less cap space, so it's easier to tank and get that top 3 pick to draft whatever next great quarterback you think you can find in the NFL draft. Now, today's show is made possible by Manscaped. You can get 20% off and free shipping on all their top-of-the-line men's grooming products with promo code Cowboys. That includes the Performance Package 4.0. It's got the Lawnmower 4.0, the #1 product in below-the-waist grooming. The Weed Whacker, good for you, or maybe it's your dad with some iffiness in terms of the ear hair and nose hair. Ball deodorant, because if your armpits stink, your balls probably stink. And that's even worse. Oh, and the most comfortable boxers known to mankind. So check out the comments section and the description of today's show. It's manscaped.com. Promo code Cowboys gets you 20% off and free shipping on everything from Manscaped. Some Cowboys training camp takeaways here. Luke Schoonmaker has been activated off of the NFI list and practiced today for the Dallas Cowboys. Finally caught a padded practice pass, that's a tongue twister, from Dak Prescott. Hopefully he plays in the preseason. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, at least for week 1. I want him to string together some good days and get going since he's playing catch-up right now. More injury notes. Ronald Jones will miss some time due to a groin injury. I highly doubt he ends up playing against the Jags. A rough training camp for Jones continues. Both CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard did not participate today. It was undisclosed for CeeDee Lamb. Something tells me Mike McCarthy will say it's GPS management, which he did last year. Lamb had a bit of a tight groin or hamstring. Wouldn't be shocked if that's the case again, but he was all smiles and laughing when he was walking out there, so not worried about him. Tony Pollard, personal reason, did not practice either, just meant more reps for your young backs. Brandon Aubrey, meanwhile, is the lone kicker, with Cowboys owner Jerry Jones claiming, emphasis on claiming, that they're comfortable going into the season with him. He was 7 of 9 today. He missed from 43 and 44. He's at 75% for Cowboys training camp, including the Mojo Moments. Not good enough, but better than Tristan Vizcaino. Still not convinced he's your answer at kicker. Now, if you have not already, please subscribe. We are 162 subs away from 157,000 here at the Cowboys Report. We are right on the precipice. Hit that sub button for more free videos each and every single day. Let's check in on the latest with the Zack Martin saga here. He is still not present at training camp. Interesting note from Bobby Belt, by the way, on his podcast, Love of the Star. Good listen, by the way. He says teams have called Dallas, and the pitch has been, hey, we know you're not going to trade Zack Martin. In the event you do, give us a call. Kind of like you go, hey, I know you're not interested in you, but if that ever changes, call me. That's what that is, which I'm not surprised by that. I'm not overly concerned about Zack Martin still holding out. I kind of figured, didn't show up for the first practice. Maybe he'll be back when the team gets back to Oxnard and just don't bother coming out to California. I also don't think this should just be swept under the rug of, who cares? He'll be good to go for week 1. That's true, but it also isn't a good thing that your team captain is not out there. The Cowboys are giving Brock Hoffman some decent reps at right guard today because Josh Ball ain't it. I've been underwhelmed by TJ Bass. Matt Farniok, I don't love him. God forbid you have to play one of those backup guards. It's dicey. And the biggest leverage point that Zack Martin has, and it's a dangerous one because it's a big fines if it does not show up, is, hey, you're going to go play the Giants and Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, Josh Ball or Matt Farniok or Chuma Adoga or somebody else at right guard. That's terrifying for your offense, and I don't think Mike McCarthy would like that one very much. So what is your concern level over Zack Martin's continued holdout from the Cowboys? 1 to 10. I haven't really changed it yet. It will jump up again if he's not back when the Cowboys are back in Frisco. But go vote for me. 1 to 10. 1 low end, 10 high end. We're somehow doing this again too. Zeke Elliott potentially returning for the Cowboys. Same report of Jeff Howe, of The Athletic, says the Cowboys are still in the mix to add Ezekiel Elliott, which goes directly against the face of what I would say the more connected Cowboys reporters are, saying Dallas doesn't have interest, and maybe this comes a bit more from the Zeke camp, to get his market going a little bit. He says the Patriots still have heavy interest, even though they did not sign him after his visit. He mentioned the Jets as a destination for Zeke, which is worth mentioning because A, the Jets have had interest in Dalvin Cook, and B, the Jets were on Elliott's original list. Remember, it was Philly, New York, and Cincinnati, which did not materialize at all. It's kind of the same, here we go again, where, look, Zeke's market's been bad. It is August, and there has not been very much buzz on him getting signed anywhere. And I think the thing that's true for everybody else is also true for Dallas. They kind of want to see what the young guys can do. And I do as well. I want to see what Malik Davis can do in a bigger role than the brief one we saw last year. This team has liked Rico Dowdle for a while. Deuce Vaughn is a player I personally am excited about. And if those guys are bad in the preseason, if those guys are bad in practices and the team goes, I don't know about this one anymore there, Jim, okay, or if there are injuries again, okay, then you can explore bringing back Zeke. But the role has got to be different. I think you're talking about cutting his touches by half at minimum. I can find 3.8 yards per carry. I can find 4 yards per carry, I think, with Malik Davis or Rico Dowdle or Deuce Vaughn, or I can go sign a different, younger, cheaper back. And I don't have interest right now. That could change, could very well change based on what else happens. But right this second, I'm passing. He just doesn't have the same juice that he had in his prime. So what do you think? Do you want to bring back Ezekiel Elliott? S for sign, P for pass. You guys can sound off in the comment section. No wrong answers. It's all about your opinion here on the Cowboys Report. We will wrap up with some Mike McCarthy surprise hot seat conversation. He is currently the betting favorite to be the first head coach fired, which I was actually kind of surprised by. Maybe that was just the attention grab. Mike McCarthy is plus 500 at the moment, so pretty steep odds anyway. Todd Bowles plus 600. Ron Rivera plus 700. Remember, new ownership with Washington. Don't underestimate that fact. Josh McDaniels, same odds. Dennis Allen plus 900. I've got some thoughts here why I don't think he'll be fired, or at least the first head coach fired. But do you think he'll be the Cowboys head coach at all next year? A for yes, B for no. This is your chance to vote in the comment section. A is the ideal outcome. In theory, emphasis on theory, knowing the Jones boys, that means that the Cowboys had great success and they chose to keep McCarthy for another year, extend him because they made it to a championship game or even beyond that there. So go vote. A for yes, B for no. I doubt he's the first head coach fired. I believe, as we typically see this each year, somebody gets canned mid-season. Someone starts the year with expectations, and then they're sitting there, they're 4-10, whatever, and they pull the plug and they're out. The Cowboys, barring disastrous injuries, should still be in contention come December, if not already in the playoff mix, playoff spot, whatever. So because of that, I don't think McCarthy ends up being the first head coach fired. Frankly, I think if he does get fired, it's probably after the year ends or even after the playoffs end. So I would say it's fairly reasonable to think that McCarthy will not be the first head coach fired. So I don't like those odds at plus 500. All right, will you guys be watching the Cowboys' first preseason game? Y for yes, N for no. Get those in, then we'll get to some of these super chats that came in. I see a lot of yeses in there from Connor. And hopefully you're all watching here on the Cowboys Report because we'll be live for that game. It should be quite a bit of fun. Get those votes in. Y for yes, N for no. From Zeno saying, is Jeremy Chuggs a biased Eagles fan or a traitorous Cowboys fan? We're good. We're going good fun. No Jeremy Center, but we must know the truth. 24-14 Cowboys over Jags. Jeremy is a biased Eagles fan. That's what he is. He is not a traitorous Cowboys fan. I still think deep down he has some closeted Cowboys fan love, but he is an Eagles fan first and foremost. All right, Zach Woolley, $5. I'm completely fine paying him. However, I don't think he's worth resetting the market. I would be inclined to agree. And I don't think you have to reset the market with Dak this time around. I think you'll be able to get him for a couple $1 million, whatever that figure ends up looking like less. So I'm on board with that, Zach, and I appreciate that super chat. From Mark, Not a Dak fan, but given the team the talent, we can win with him. If Dak's his guy, then restructure now before his price goes up what happened years ago. So again, I agree with Mark, just like I agree with the comment from Zach. The longer you wait, the more expensive it is. Doesn't really benefit you as an organization if it is your guy to wait and not, see, let's see what happens. Like, Dak's been in the league for 8 years now. You know what he is. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's not top 5. He needs a good supporting cast. And I'm like, pretty much all QBs do outside of like one guy. That's Mahomes, by the way. So structure the contract in a way that allows you to go do that, is my mindset. From Mark, riddle me this. Want to sign Pollard in a draft won't sign Pollard in a draft full of RBs. We draft a gadget RB with a good young tight end. We draft another tight end when Osiris Torrance was there. I actually like Deuce Vaughn a lot. I was surprised they waited as long as they did at the running back position. That was pretty interesting to me. Maybe it means they really like Davis or Dowdle. The Luke Schoonmaker pick was maybe the biggest in-the-moment surprise on day 2. I knew they didn't like Osiris Torrance. That's kind of why I'd given up hoping to draft him, but I would have really liked that. I would have really liked to see that all go down together. I think we would have felt a lot better about the Martin holdout, right? We would have felt good about, hey, we can put Tyler Smith at left tackle. So I agree. Hopefully the Cowboys got it right and we got it wrong. So back to this question, folks. Will you be watching the Cowboys' first preseason game? Y for yes, N for no. Get those answers in for me in the comments section. Y for yes, N for no. We are about to, by the way, break down the Cowboys versus Jags preseason game. So stay tuned for that right here on the, make sure there's not news. Oh, yeah, we're good. Sorry, there's quotes going up and interviews and stuff, so making sure I'm not missing anything on the timeline with Luke Schoonmaker's talking, so he's fine. But I saw a new tweet that didn't make sure I didn't want to miss anything super important that would require the should have completely change. So stay tuned. More Cowboys Report coverage coming up right now. We will be live for the Cowboys versus Jags preseason game week 1. It is one of our watch parties. We will have some fun, have some giveaways as well. Make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. It is the Cowboys against the Jags to open up the 2023 preseason for Dallas, a home game for the Cowboys. Kickoff set for 5 p.m. Eastern out in Arlington. A potential, can you call it a preseason revenge game when the Noah Brown disaster is still very much fresh in our memory and minds there. Week 1 of the preseason, I think you'll see a slightly different approach from these two teams. I think you'll see some of the Jags starters get a series or 2. As for the Cowboys, I'm really not sure how much you will see of the Cowboys starters out there, especially as it relates to Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy, as of filming, did not clarify one way or the other which route he was planning to go. Said he probably wasn't going to play him, but if you bet it would be a no, but hadn't committed to it there. And you're probably not going to play Tyron Smith, right? Zack Martin's not going to be out there. I would be surprised if Terrence Steele played. Wouldn't be mad at it, but I'd be surprised if he played. So you're down 3 starters at minimum along the offensive line. I don't know about you guys. I don't think the risk is worth it for Dak to be out there. I don't want to jeopardize an injury that could sink your season a month before it actually gets going. So that could very well lead to some more rust on offense early on in the year. I'm okay with that, as opposed to the downside of potentially losing a key player. So, I think your key guys, we mentioned those guys, Dak, etc., Pollard, are probably not going to play, if at all. Maybe someone like a Michael Gallup gets a couple reps to kind of get him fully going after he was off last year. I'm sure we'll see some of Mozzie Smith. You're not going to see Micah Parsons, I would assume. But I think your big players are simply not going to be out there for the Cowboys. I think that's the right choice. Now, wins and losses don't matter that much in the preseason. It's about how you get there. It's the journey, not the destination. With that in mind, who do you have winning the first preseason game? Type in your C's for the Cowboys or J for the Jags. It's the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's break down then what I'm going to be watching for, and I think what many of you are watching for in this game. First and foremost, it is the young running backs. I don't think you'll see Tony Pollard play. I wouldn't even totally rule out maybe a Malik Davis not playing very much. It also might give us an indication if one of those Davis or Dowdle guys doesn't play very much, probably a good sign that guy's the favorite to be RB2 from that perspective. But I think Deuce Vaughn's going to play. I think we'll see at least one, if not both, of Dowdle and Davis get some nice run out there. Hunter Lipke's going to play, I would assume. Again, it's all assumptions at this point. This crazy stuff tends to happen in the preseason. But I want to see what those young guys can do behind a backup offensive line, especially against maybe some starters for the Jags. Malik Davis is the most experienced of the non-Ronald Jones group. He's banged up, by the way. Doubt he plays. He's going to be suspended anyway for the first 2 games. 4.2 yards per carry last year. Small sample size, admittedly. Showed some flashes in the past. Both Davis and Rico Dowdle have their fans within the organization. I would not be surprised if those 2 vets are in the pole position to be RB2, but I also believe there will be a role for Deuce Vaughn. And Deuce Vaughn is very undersized. He's out there playing peekaboo and hide and seek against opposing defense because you can't see the guy. I got a screen grab up on Twitter. It's a little swing pass to kind of a screen, really, of Tyron Smith's in front of Deuce Vaughn, and you literally can't see Deuce. Like, he has the ball, and you can't find him because Tyron Smith blocks out the sun and blocks out Deuce Vaughn. He knows how to use his size well. He might get some return reps, by the way. Excited to see all of that. This is like, Deuce Vaughn is the number 1 guy I'm watching this upcoming week. There's also Hunter Lipke, who I don't think he's had his best stuff so far. He's kind of a fullback, H-back hybrid. Needs some work as a blocker. But there is some short yardage stuff. If you want a purely bigger back to be short yardage for you, Hunter Lipke checks off that box. It's a matter of, can he do enough to earn a role ahead of a Dowdle, a Davis, knowing I think Deuce Vaughn's going to make this team, and they're probably not going to carry 5 backs. Lipke has to impress. I think you'd get him on the practice squad, though, if you really had to. But I'm excited to watch those backs. They will run the ball plenty in the preseason. Now, who here has had a tough time canceling a subscription? I have. Maybe you forgot to cancel a subscription. I did. Looking at you, Apple TV. Ted Lasso's over. I don't need it anymore, and I keep forgetting to cancel the dang thing. Well, at least I did forget to cancel it, but I now have it made easy to cancel everything with Rocket Money. It's a great app I love using. Makes my life easier. It shows all your subscriptions in one place, then cancels for you whatever you don't still want. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. Maybe you were double charged for a subscription and you didn't realize it. To cancel a subscription, all you got to do is press cancel. And Rocket Money very simply takes care of the rest for you. So get rid of those useless subscriptions right now with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. Seriously, folks, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. What to watch for? Number 2, the kicker. Singular. It's just Brandon Aubrey left at this stage. Tristan Vizcaino has been released by the organization. He's going to get all the reps in practice this week, get all the kicks and the kickoffs in the first preseason game. If he impresses, great. If he's bad, oh boy, that's not going to sit well with the fan base or the coaching staff. So be honest with me. Do you think Brandon Aubrey is the answer for the Cowboys at kicker? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Sound off in the comments. A lot of us are concerned about the kicker spot, and I get it. You're not wrong. I am also worried about the offensive line depth, which is true for about 28, 29-ish NFL teams. I assume you're not going to play Tyron Smith. You're not going to have Zack Martin present, most likely. You're not going to have Terrence Stutter, I would assume. I don't think you will see much of Tyler Smith and or Tyler Biotish, maybe a series or 2. So it's going to be your backups. You know, Brock Hoffman's working with some of the 2s, by the way. Keep an eye on him. Don't sleep on Brock Hoffman right now. Can Josh Ball not be a liability? And it's iron sharpens iron. I want to mention that. But when you are going up against starting caliber linemen like Dante Fowler as the worst option to a certain extent, it's tough to get a good evaluation of these linemen. Matt Farniok, I don't think has had his best. I was hoping he was going to look a little bit better. He also has some tough matchups out there. I think Chuma Adoga has gotten worked a bunch. He's been on the wrong side of a lot of highlights. It's also Micah Parsons he's going up against every day. I think we will get an easier job of evaluating these offensive linemen based on what they do later on. Like, we will get a feel for them in the preseason because they're not playing against the Cowboys starting defensive linemen that are oh so good. So we'll have a better idea of just how good those linemen are or how big of a concern it's going to be. So what player or players, if you want to be an overachiever, are you most excited to watch and see how they perform in the first preseason game? Mozzie Smith's a good answer, I'm sure, but let me hear your guys's in the comment section. Number 4, I'm looking at the young defensive backs, which safeties can be a bit tricky to watch in-game. You're not going to have the same, aerial views we'll get on the All-22 when the games actually get going that matter. I doubt we'll see much of any of Trayvon Diggs. Stephon Gilmore, I would almost guarantee, is not going to play. He is a veteran. Deron Bland maybe gets a series. Jordan Lewis is out. So it's going to be a lot of your young guys. Going to be a lot of Nashawn Wright, a lot of Eric Scott, and probably a good amount of Kelvin Joseph. And I think Scott makes this team as the recent draft pick, but Joseph has to impress. Although Joseph is younger than Eric Scott is by like a full year almost, he's on his last chance. The team was mad at him last year. Nashawn Wright wasn't that impressive either. I think he's been better in camp, but Joseph probably has the edge on special teams, which also a good time to mention this. Keep an eye on, if as best as we can, I'll probably have to do it like 2 days later once we get the actual snap counts and stuff, because it's tough to track in-game, who these special teamers are out there for both those teams, or for the Cowboys, for first team, kicks, punts, etc. That's a good indication of, hey, these guys are going to start and make the team at the back end of the roster. So when it comes to Kelvin Joseph, does he make the team? Y for yes, N for no. Go vote in the comments. Predictions, I suppose, from that perspective. Does Kelvin Joseph end up making this Cowboys roster? He's not guaranteed it. It's time to earn it for Joseph. Boss Man Fat. The safety room. I doubt you'll see Jaron Kearse. Donovan Wilson's banged up, so he's not going to play. Israel Mukwamu could get some run there. Malik Hooker maybe gets a series, if that. So Marquise Bell, Tyler Coyle, and don't sleep on Wanye Thomas. He's flashed a bit with some injuries at safety. I like what the Cowboys have in this room. I can't believe I'm saying that. It makes me so happy because I love safety play. They've got some good ones. I bet they make some plays. Finally, the wide receiver depth. I would be shocked if the Cowboys played CeeDee Lamb. Maybe Cooks and Gallup get a series, if that. Maybe 2. I don't think you overplay those guys. Jalen Tolbert then will get a lot of run. Simi Fehoko will get a lot of run. Kevontae Turpin, can he contribute on offense? Or is he too valuable as a special teamer to even go out there? We'll see. I bet he gets some chances there. Jalen Brooks has impressed. But we see this every year. The guy that looks good early on in camp, sometimes that doesn't always continue. There's a flash player, preseason legend, or camp legend, and they don't get going from that perspective. So the games matter. That's where Tolbert really fell apart, was last year in the preseason. So far, so good. I want to see it continue in the first preseason game against the Jags. Let's talk busts here. Then we'll get to some super chats as well. Biggest Cowboys bust. Initially, let me sip some of my water. Actually, not water, but I won't tell if you don't tell. Biggest bust in Cowboys history. Let's see what we got here. Taco Charlton. Not surprised that one's on there. Let's see what else we got here. I'm waiting for a Bobby Carpenter in there. Some more Taco Charltons. There you go. Again, not surprised. Quincy Carter. He was a second rounder. I don't think I can buy that one. Morris Claiborne is up there. The Joey Galloway trade. That was bad. That was really bad. LaFleur, Frederick is not a bust. What are you talking about there? Morris Claiborne's up there. Bobby Carpenter is up there. By the way, I was in Columbus for a wedding like earlier this summer, and sitting there watching golf, getting ready, and all of a sudden a Bobby Carpenter carpet cleaning commercial comes on. Like that's, or he's like a car shop, something like that. That's what he's doing. It was hilarious. I'm like, Bobby Carpenter, what? I mean, I get it. It's Ohio State, it's Columbus, so it makes sense. But it was just kind of crazy there. The Roy Williams trade, that was also pretty bad. I think the Galloway one was probably worse. See, Daniels, no, MG's just hating on Deuce Vaughn. No slander of our small RB. All right, Eddie Joe, a $5 super chat. Extend Israel Mukuamu now. If he has the breakout year I'm hoping for, he will cost a lot more after the season. I'm on board with this Israel Mukuamu breakout theory. Here's the problem. You actually can't do it yet. You have to be 3 years removed to get an extension. Mukuamu was a 2021 draft pick, so he played that season. 2022, he has to wait until after this year to get paid. So the Cowboys cannot pay him yet, but we'd like to keep him. From Mark, JJ should give Martin a small raise and restructure him to make him happy and give us cap space. Restructure Dak for more cap space on a guard or a tackle. Most of your cap space savings for either guy would come next year. Dallas has cleared up a good amount of money for them this year already with reducing their base salaries. But it would save money next year, and you still got about $18 million in cap space. So you got plenty to sign a guard or a tackle. $2 from Mark again. Miss Chugs, ask him his favorite tea, Aloha. I will ask him, Mark, and I'm not a tea drinker. I think that Jeremy is, but I'll see what his favorite is there. Nathan Neal, what's the breakdown of Crosby's missed kicks at Green Bay versus in a dome? Maybe there's something hidden there that could potentially be better in Dallas. It's a good question. Let me see if a quick Google search will bring that up here. Mason Crosby, dome versus outdoor. I bet at minimum I could find home versus away splits. Here we go. I got some numbers here. This is as of December 2022. By the way, fun facts, since he joined the NFL, Crosby's 53rd of 60 kickers who have attempted at least 100 tries, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. All right. Got the numbers here. Outdoors, Crosby's hit 80.4. In domes, Crosby's done 84.8. So, Crosby's attempted most of his kicks outside. Now, it's 81% of his kicks have been outside. I don't know if that's the issue there. I think Mike saw some real inconsistencies from Crosby in Green Bay. I think that's a factor there. Abjit Pawar, I think Dak is not respected on his team anymore. Is he on the hot seat? I can promise you guys, there is nothing to be concerned about with any respect or whatever. Don't let LaShawn McCoy fool you otherwise. That is not a concern from the Cowboys. Dak loves the trash talk, and he's actually upped it a little bit as a result of the media talking heads getting all excited about it there. His teammates love him. He and Trayvon Diggs are tight. The example I will give here is the most out-of-pocket shit I've ever said is the stuff I've said to my closest friends, because I know I can do that, and it's not going to cause any issues. That's what the Diggs-Dak relationship is. It's a very good one. There's no lack of respect issues whatsoever for anyone on that team as it relates to Dak. From Chris B., still should have drafted Darnell Washington instead. I liked him a lot, as I think most of you guys know who have been subscribed for a long time. The problem we ran into was the Cowboys brought him in for a pre-draft visit, and they said, hey, you know what? The medical didn't check out. They brought him in for the visit, had the physical stuff, and said, we're not going to add him. So he was off their board, which is ironic that it took a tight end who only just now got healthy. From Mark again, thank you, my friend. Russell Maryland, he was the first Rebecca to get Casillas, as Maryland even stood up for a bit and was very okay, like Ebenezer Ekubon. Man, I don't know if biggest bust. He was first overall pick. This is about biggest bust. I don't know if I go biggest. I'm looking at like maybe a Bobby Carpenter, but he didn't live up to expectations. Maryland was a fine player. He just wasn't number one overall pick. So I don't know if I go biggest bust, but I think that's a decent kind of dark horse name to throw in there. Now, it is Cowboys mailbag time. There are 2 ways to get on the show. #Cowboys or Super Chat. Now, we have had a bunch of Super Chats. I'd say Chris picked the best ones. You think they're going to get the most engagement or get the most whatever. Pick those best Super Chats. Some of them are like, don't... a couple of those of like, hey, did you get the gifts? We did. Mark, thank you. Probably not put that one in the mailbag there. Get those in. There are a lot of super thanks we're going to get to as well. So have your questions coming in. #Cowboys. Super chat. Any super chats that come in while we're doing this mailbag, we promise we will get on the show. But #Cowboys questions are a bit more up in the air. Toss up. We'll see what the timing looks like. This Cowboys mailbag is made possible by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Also have some fantastic beard hedger and trimming tools. So get 20% off and free shipping with promo code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. A bunch of super thanks to get to from Wayness. Thanks. Hey, Tom, longtime viewer, first-time thankser. I love it. What scenario is more likely? Jake Paul becomes world boxing champ by 2026. Producer Chris is laughing at that one. Or Dak is MVP and Super Bowl champ this season. Love you, bud. Thank you very much, Wayness. All of Jake Paul's fights are rigged. Prove me wrong. Look, he's in great shape. It is rigged to get the first round in and then get the rematch. I do not believe they are real fights. They're pulling some punches, making sure Jake Paul wins to get the money in there. I don't think it's real, so he's not going to be the actual world boxing champ. Therefore, give me Dak. Now, super thanks. You'll see a lot of these on today's mailbag. It's just like a super chat, but instead of a live show, it's an on-demand video. You can go click that little heart with the $ in the middle, edit your message, send it. Any super thanks we get, we will give you a shout-out here on the Cowboys Report. Xylophone, how has Hunter Lipke looked in practice? Does he make the roster? It's been pretty quiet. I think he's just behind guys like Davis, Dowdle, and Vaughn. There's only so many reps to go around. So fairly quiet for Lipke, but a real chance to impress in the Cowboys' first preseason game, which we will be live for. Cowboys versus Jags on Saturday. We will have an entire watch party, pregame show, postgame show. Got a giveaway plan for you guys as well. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. $2 super thanks from DeWand Alexander. What do you think about Jose Barbone from Temple? What are your thoughts? So this came in earlier last week. I think it was on a Tuesday or something. Hadn't seen much. He's flashed a couple of times since then. I responded to the comment of I haven't seen much. Then he had a nice catch a day later. So a little bit more preseason will also matter a lot for him. Blood Slinger, a bunch of super thanks from my guy here. Love your show. Offensive line didn't look good either for the blue and white scrimmage. Parsons was in the backfield over and over. I know he's great, but where was the offensive line? It's a great question. I am worried about the offensive line. That's the spot that concerns me the most on offense. If your O-line's bad, impacts your quarterback, impacts your ground game, your receivers, tight end, everything. So part of it is Micah's great. They've been sitting, pitch counts for Tyron Smith and Terrence Stiller. There's no Zack Martin. So I'm more worried about the depth than the starters, but it is a very valid area of concern. Now, with that in mind, Micah looks awesome, and I don't want to give him any... I want to make sure he gets his credit too. So how many sacks will Micah Parsons have this year? Is it 16? 20? It's the pinned comment on today's show. So if an ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. Another one from Blood Slinger. Thanks again. Didn't see Ronald Jones play either. Don't think he's going to make it. Yeah, Ronald Jones has a groin injury. He's going to miss some time. He's suspended for the first 2 games, so he probably doesn't get cut at roster cutdown time. Won't count against the active roster, but he might not actually play for the Cowboys. It's been a rough camp for him so far. Blood Slinger, again. Thanks again and again. Not impressed with Fehoko. Tolbert, Brooks, and Drummond are better. He might go too. Tolbert and Brooks are definitely in front of him. Haven't seen much of Dontario Drummond. That might change in the preseason game, but look, that 6th receiver spot, because it's Tolbert's 4, Turpin's 5 right now, has to help on special teams. I think Brooks has the edge there. And one more from Bloodslinger. Thanks. After watching the blue and whites, here's concern about the kickers. Both were terrible during the mojo moments. The kickers have been replaced, or at least one of them has been. Tristan Vizcaino has been cut. He was the worst in the mojo moment. The mojo moment in the scrimmage was about a 60-yard try with the wind against them, so that adjusted was 60 yards. Tough kicks, but yeah, kickers have not been great so far. Maybe that changes in the first preseason game. It's also fair to wonder, is this Cowboys kicker actually on the roster? I'm not so sure. What do you think? Y for yes, N for no. Is the Cowboys kicker actually on the roster right now? From Scott P. Thanks to the Cowboys do re-sign Ezekiel. $2 super thanks, by the way. What happens to his dead cap hit? Basically nothing. The cap hit stays as it's a great question. It basically becomes, instead of a release and eat the dead money, it's kind of a pay cut is what it ends up being. You're still going to pay him the $1 million, $2 million, whatever he'd make this year. Dead cap hit stays the same. So it ends up being, instead of a release of the savings, it's a pay cut of the savings from that perspective. Good question, though, Scott. Excuse me, that was unusual. We'll make sure to cut out the coughing in the middle of the read. Today's show is made possible by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. They are the best in men's grooming products, and Cowboys fans only deserve the best since we don't get it on the field somehow. Lawnmower 4.0 is the best for below the waist. The Beard Hedger is the best for above the chin. Plus, it has the most comfortable boxers known to mankind. Look, it's summer. It's hot. Make sure you're looking smooth and feeling smooth and skate from pubes to bum. Manscaped.com, promo code COWBOYS gets you 20% off and free shipping. All right, some super chats here. I'm completely fine with paying Dak. That's who the him is here. However, I don't think he's worth resetting the market. I would be inclined to agree. I don't think you have to give Dak a $55 million a year deal. It could even be like $10 million less than that is maybe closer than the 55. So I agree. I don't want to have him totally reset the market, but I do think he's worth extending. From Eddie Joe, extend Israel Mukuamu now. It's your money. You need it now, right? If he has the breakout year I'm hoping for, he will cost a lot more after the season. I agree. I'm excited about Israel Mukuamu, but the NFL CBA says you cannot. You have to be 3 years removed to get paid. So much like Micah Parsons can't get paid yet, Mukuamu can't get paid yet either. Mark Hava, Spain, mentioning the biggest bust in Cowboys history. He says Russell Maryland, first overall pick, had to get Casillas as Maryland did not even suit up for a bit and was very okay, much like Ebenezer Ekubon. I still might go with a Bobby Carpenter instead of Russell Maryland, but Maryland didn't have the best results in terms of like first overall pick expectations. So I don't hate that selection there, Mark. Might not be the one I go with, but it's a decent kind of under the radar name. A $10 super chat from Will Marshall. It's aggravating we have to talk kicker, Zack Martin, missing free agent piece at this point. Is JJ really pushing all in, knowing the stadium sells out regardless? Tired of coming up short. I have yet to see a super chat from Will Marshall that doesn't speak directly to me. And I completely agree again. We're talking kicker. And I'm okay with the kicker plan more than others. Like, your best option might come available at roster cutdown time, so you can be a bit patient there. It's fine. But Zack Martin, shouldn't get that one done. You haven't spent in free agency for a while. They're not pushing all in because they want to be in that 10-win range every year, every single year. They'd rather have 5 straight 10-win seasons than 3 12-win seasons and take an 8-win season. That's their mindset, which I just don't agree with because you're right, Will. I am tired of coming up short. Now, preseason football is here. It's underway. The NFL Hall of Fame already happened, and we'll have the Cowboys preseason game right here. So predict the Cowboys preseason record. Go vote for me in the comments section right now. From Turner Boys by Dak Prescott, why does Stephen A. Smith, LaShawn McCoy, Joy Taylor, and Chris Russo hate Dak so much? Because it is their job to get you riled up. Stephen A. Smith is not a ball knower. He's a talking head. LaShawn McCoy's an Eagle. He just wants to upset Cowboys fans. Joy Taylor is trying to get a reaction out of you. Chris Russo is just he's a screaming head, just like Stephen A. Smith. Those guys don't actually care. They just want to get the attention and reaction and the engagement that comes with hating on the Cowboys. Cole Haggard, then, if we're able to, the super chats that came in from Mark and Chris B here. Do you think Zack Martin, or do you think getting Zack Martin to top 3 offensive guard money, around $18 million a year, gets him to camp? And if so, what does that extension look like? I think it might. Look, I don't have the deep information there in terms of what the situation is, of what Martin really wants. Does he just want more guaranteed money? Let's ride. Does he want a slight raise for 2 years? I'm probably fine with that. Maybe you can get creative and restructure it and be creative with the way you structure the deal. I would like it, but I do think some more money would get him to show up. I'm not sure Dallas is going to make that happen, though. From Mark, $5. It all comes down to injuries between us, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. The NFC is weak. Dak is a bus driver, which makes the occasional play, which is fine. We have a ton of talent. I think he's better than a bus driver. But if you were to rank the NFC quarterbacks, even if you take Jalen Hurts first, who are you taking next? It's Dak. Stafford isn't healthy and has had one good year the past couple seasons, by the way. Kyler Murray's not healthy and also was a disaster last year. Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins is just like a discount Dak, so it's Dak is second best. I agree. I think you're right, Mark. Comes down to injuries. Dallas, Philly, San Francisco, once again. For Mark, is Brooks, I think this is Jalen Brooks, undrafted and a stud still in college. So I assume we're talking about Jalen Brooks here. 7th-round pick out of South Carolina. He didn't play that much in college. He wasn't that impactful. In fact, Brooks was talking about how his job was special teams for the Cowboys. Now he's out here making plays. I think the Cowboys have been happily surprised with what they've gotten so far out of Jalen Brooks, but we'll have to wait and see if that materializes beyond just practices and into games. Chris B, if Dak wants to reset the market, what do you do? I pitched on our rumors video the other day, go with the extension for like 4 to 5 years. So I would either do a fake extension if you would go for it, of like, hey, we're going to give you, a 4-year deal, massive APY, but the final year of the deal that's like $70 million isn't guaranteed, and it bumps up to reset the market, but it doesn't, so it's kind of a fake extension, and you bail after 3 years. Or I would up my timeline and try to win this year, next year, and then blow it up. I don't really want to make Dak a $55 million per year player, but I would want to know how the nitty-gritty extension details are. Because if you only tie yourself to 3 years and it's not, at that point, it's not the 55 per year that comes later on in the deal, I can get away with that. How excited are you guys about the Cowboys season? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Get those votes in. We're almost back. It's a month away from the best of football and a little bit longer from that perspective, or a little bit less for the actual games preseason there. I see 10s everywhere. Eddie, Leroy, Rick, Jalen. Chris, are you at a 10?
Absolutely.
Okay, good, because I was going to fire you if you weren't.
No, I mean, my first football season with Chat Sports, it's got to be a 10.
No, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have some fun here this year. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to it. 10, I'm at a 15. MG says 1. Evidence again, he is just trolling. 69. Nice. By the way, haven't had this in a while. We did get to 60. No, I hope that wasn't there the entire time. No, we were split screen. It probably wouldn't have mattered. My cup was on screen there a little bit. We did get to $69 in super chats though. And the rule is, that's a shot. So it is shot time here. Cheers. I'll adjust my headset. My hair is getting all poofy behind it. I guess I can't see it from there. Get the votes in. Ooh, hold on. Unitive says, is the turnover chain coming back? Can you go check that package, by the way? Go check that one. Let me see if... Go see what's in there, because that one that came today. That might be the chain. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. 10 if Martin is back from Tyrone Young. I get that. I think he will be. But the fact that we're saying think and not is what makes me concerned. Let's see. Edward Newton. I'll mention this one. Middle of the year, we're 6-2, 8-0. Dak goes down. Season-ending injury. Can you see a possible Brady call from Jerry Jones? Yeah, I can. I think any Super Bowl caliber team that loses their quarterback for whatever reason, yeah, I could absolutely see a scenario in which the Cowboys look in that direction and figure out, hey, let's go see what happens here. So it's kind of crazy. Oh, it's here. All right, hand me it. Just the chain. It's back. Turnover chain is back. A little bit bigger this year too, which I like. We gave away all the ones we had during the playoffs, but yeah, turnover chain is back. I don't think it's bad luck to be wearing it right now since there are no games right now. But yes, turnover chain is back and it will be in use during the preseason. I'm pretty sure, by the way, this is the exact one that McCarthy wore late in the season. So turnover chain is back, confirmed on that front. I figured that's what was in that package, but I just wasn't sure. Make sure we'll have to find a nice place to hang that there. There is a super chat, by the way, from Mark, again, the MVP today. I was thinking of David Durden. Is he doing good? I haven't seen or heard much out of Durden. So again, he's a UDFA. The Cowboys are fairly deep at wide receiver, and when you're giving so many reps to Lamb and Cooks and Gallup and Turpin and Tolbert and Fayoko, there's only so many reps to go around for those other receivers. That's why Dallas didn't have much interest in Denzel Mims, by the way. So Durden's best chance is going to come fourth quarter of the first preseason game. We'll see if he's out there, see if he gets a chance. So quiet so far. We'll keep that in mind, though. From Chris B, God forbid, would you trade Martin for a 1 if you had to? I mean, you're saying I have to, so what options do I have? Martin's an interesting trade value guy because you're thinking maybe 2-3 years of him, 4 if you're lucky. And I don't know if there is a long list of teams that would give that up for that sort of a player because of the age. He's awesome. I think he's still the best guard in the NFL. I would want at least a first. I don't know if you'd get one, which is why in the end, I would simply make an exception for Zack Martin. And yes, he's got 2 years left on his deal, but I would rather have him and win football games now than a future first that becomes like, I don't know, pick 28. Like, that first-round pick could be anything, you know? It could be Byron Jones, who's actually playing corner for 5 years for you. It could be Trayvon Diggs. It could be Taco Charlton. I think I'd rather have the valuable player for a win-now football team, though. It's a good question, though, Chris. I appreciate that. The first preseason game is almost here, so it is time for 53-man roster projections, the updated version. We will also do practice squad because I have no life and I am an overachiever in some things, not all things, before the first game, so things are going to change, of course. Now, if you're going to watch our Cowboys watch party coming up on Saturday, days away, hours away if you're good enough at math, then like the video right now. I am hyped. I cannot wait. I want you guys to like the video if you're going to join us for our Cowboys preseason watch party week 1 against the Jags. All right, position by position. First up here, Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, and Will Grier at quarterback. Grier was one of the last players I put on here. The new NFL rules let you carry a third quarterback for free. Dallas last year carried 1 quarterback to the game. They put Rush and Grier on the practice squad. I thought about going with 2 here. I'm kind of wavering back and forth overall there. It's at least 2. Maybe Grier makes it as the third guy who occasionally shows some nice things for you in practice. And he could have pushed for the job last year, but got hurt, missed a preseason game, and gave the job to Rush, and the rest is history. So how many quarterbacks do you think the Dallas Cowboys will end up carrying this year? Is it 2 or is it 3? It's one of those 2 options. So go predict it for me in the comments section. How many quarterbacks will the Cowboys end up carrying this season? All right, running backs. I'll go 4 deep here. No major surprises. Tony Pollard, Malik Davis, Deuce Vaughn, and Rico Dowdle. I feel pretty good about those 4 guys being the main options for Dallas. You do see Ronald Jones on there with a bit of an asterisk. He is suspended for the time being. He's going to miss the first 2 games, also a bit banged up as we sit here filming this. So he's not going to count against the active roster for now. And then after 2 weeks, decision time to be made on Rojo. Who will end up being RB2? Is it Malik Davis? Type in MD. Is it Rico Dowdle? Type in RD. Is it everyone's favorite short king, Deuce Vaughn? Type in DV. Hunter Lipke, HL. Lipke is probably the dark horse there. Maybe it's Davis, but Vaughn I think will play a nice role as well. Get your predictions in for me in the comment section. MD, RD, DV, or HL. Let's go to wide receivers here. I'm going 6 deep. Lamb, Cooks, Gallup are guaranteed roster locks. And I would put both Jalen Tolbert and Kevontae Turpin, as of now, there's still time for them to potentially regress, in the very, very, very likely making the roster. There would be shocks at this point if they didn't make it. I think Turpin showed enough on offense to justify it. Tolbert looks way better. And then Jalen Brooks gets the nod over, amongst others, Simi Fehoko. That 6th receiver with Lamb, Cooks, and Gallup out there, Tolbert as receiver 4, and Turpin as receiver 5, has to help on special teams. I trust Brooks more there than Fehoko and others, and I think he's been your 6th best receiver in camp so far, if not even your 5th best, ahead of like a guy like Turpin maybe. Like Brooks has been very impressive so far. Tolbert, meanwhile, looks to be a bit more like the South Alabama version. So are you buying or selling the Jalen Tolbert redemption arc with him as wide receiver 4? Y for yes, you are. N for no, you are not. Tight ends, it came down to Will Grier or Sean McEwen, and I went with Grier over McEwen because Luke Schoonmaker is now back off of the NFI list. This is not in order necessarily. I think Ferguson is your clear-cut tight end 1. Schoonmaker can block a little bit. He'll probably carve out a role once he's up to speed fully. Hendershot will also contribute. So 3 young tight ends, I feel okay about that group going a little bit thinner than it did in my initial projections, maybe. Offensive line time here. Some obvious locks, right? Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Terrence Steele. I'm going to put Matt Waletzko in a borderline lock grouping. I think there's enough upside there after a good mini camp and a bit more of a quiet, which is sometimes a good thing, training camp. I'm going to assume Zack Martin's out there. I'm going to be real worried if he's not. I think it's a draft pick. Awesome. Richards gets a shot to make the roster. I'll put Matt Farniok in there as well, even though I've been kind of whelmed by him. And Chuma Adoga, who I want to see him in the preseason because he's got a lot of reps against Micah Parsons, and that's just not fair. He hasn't looked that great so far. Now, do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Most Americans think they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions when the actual total is closer to $200 plus. That's right, folks. You could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions you don't even know about. There's this app I love that takes care of it for me. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows all your subscriptions in one place and then cancels for you whatever you don't still want. Rocket Money can find subs you didn't even know you were paying for. Maybe you were even double charged for a subscription. To cancel one, all you have to do is press cancel. That's it. And Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money right now. Go to rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. Folks, seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/Cowboys. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. Defensive line time here. So Osa Odighizuwa's a lock. Mozzie Smith's a lock. Hankins I feel pretty good about. Very quiet camp so far for Junior Fehoko, but he's a draft pick. It's camp. The interior guys don't always shine. I think he and Chauncey Golston make it. I almost put Quinton Bohanna on here, but are the Cowboys going to carry 3 nose guards? I have a tough time seeing that, and I went with Hankins over Bohanna, but Bohanna's been pretty good so far in camp. Meanwhile, I am cutting, or maybe I find a trade partner for Neville Gallimore. He is firmly on the roster bubble. He needs a really impressive preseason. There is a numbers game along the defensive line, some good players, guys that could can and probably will be on a roster in Dallas or somewhere else are on the bubble. Gallimore would save almost $3 million with a release or cut. Give that money to Zack Martin, right? So unfortunately for Gallimore, I have him on the outside looking in. And if he does get cut, I bet he gets picked up by somebody else and would not make it to your practice squad. Now, Cowboys football is back. Camp's here. The preseason is finally almost here. Make sure you guys don't miss a thing. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/Cowboys TV. Free videos every single day. Defensive end time here. Micah, duh. Tank Lawrence, duh. Dorrance Armstrong, safe barring a surprise trade. Sam Williams, duh. Dante Fowler, see the Dorrance Armstrong note. If someone like a Tyus Wheat really impresses, then maybe something could happen from that perspective and they trade somebody, but I think that's more unlikely than likely. Linebacker, this was tough. I think 3 guaranteed locks. Van Der Esch, Clark, and Overshown for fairly obvious reasons. There's been good buzz about Jabril Cox, and Dallas only going 5 or 4 deep at linebacker, even though Parsons can play linebacker and your safeties can come down. I think that's a little bit too thin. So I did have Devin Harper as one of my last defensive players on the list. Now, cornerbacks, Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, all locks. I think Eric Scott has a good shot. I put C.J. Goodwin on here for special teams purposes, and I went with Nashawn Wright over Kelvin Joseph. And I'll make note, Jordan Lewis, we'll put him on the PUP list to start the year. So I'll cheat and find a way to keep him. I don't know when he's going to come back, hopefully soon, but that foot injury has been kind of a problem for him. It was a bad one. He's still working his way back. He's attacking it aggressively, but it's going to take some time. I went in the end with Wright over Joseph. I think Wright's been better in camp so far, but I also think that Joseph has the special teams advantage over Nashawn Wright. If you're keeping C.J. Goodwin and you have nickel options in Bland and Lewis, I don't know if you keep a third one in Kelvin Joseph, assuming Lewis gets healthier sooner than later. Mukwamu can play nickel, so I left Joseph off the list. He is in a fight for his roster life right now. He's now a nickel corner, which is behind Bland, and I think Mukwamu can play that role if needed as well. It's a tough roster spot fight for Kelvin Joseph. I would like for him to live up to his potential, become the player that was worthy from the Cowboys' perspective of that second-round pick all those years ago, or even just a couple of years ago, but he hasn't gotten there quite yet. Hopefully it happens in the near future. So what to do with Kelvin Joseph? K for keep, C for cut. Get those votes in, the predictions, or whatever you desire, I suppose, in the comments section right now, K or C. All right, safeties. Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Israel Mukwamu are not going anywhere. And I went with Marquise Bell over Wanye Thomas and Tyler Coyle. There are some good options for the Cowboys at safety, but it just wasn't quite enough for me. I wouldn't be shocked if Wanye Thomas made it, but I did go with Bell narrowly over him. Finally, your specialists, Brian Anger, Trent Sieg, your long snapper, and I'll go with Brandon Aubrey. I almost put Nick Folk. That's been my prediction for so long. Since Aubrey's the lone kicker, not convinced he's your guy, but I'll put him on the kicker spot for now. Now, those of you good at math, you have realized the math ain't mathin', and that's actually 54 players I put on here. What I bet the Cowboys are going to do is cheat. They did this last year, and they play that practice squad call-up. You get 3 free practice squad call-ups over the course of the season for each player. So you will cut a C.J. Goodwin or your long snapper. They don't have that much guaranteed money overall. You will then put them on your practice squad because they're veterans. They don't go through waivers. You'll free up a spot. Someone will get hurt. You'll call them up after the first 3 weeks there, cut somebody else instead, and you have a bonus active roster spot to play with. So it's 54. I cheated, but I bet a Sieg, a Goodwin, maybe even your kicker, if it's not a notable vet, start the year on the practice squad and get call-ups to begin the year. Maybe Will Greer falls in a similar category as well. So who are you mad about that I left off the Cowboys roster projection? What player that I did not put on there are you unhappy that I didn't have that you think should be on there? Good news. They're probably on the upcoming practice squad breakdown we'll do. Let me hear your answers in the comment section. Hunter Lipke on there is the H-back, fullback, whatever he is. 3 receivers, Dennis Houston, Steve Fehoko, and yes, Jalen Marino-Cropper. 2 tight ends, Sean McEwen, John Stevens Jr. Don't sleep on Stevens. Very impressive camp relative to expectations, especially. Probably more of a practice squad guy, but he's a good guy to watch in the first preseason game. 2 linemen, interior, TJ Bass, Alec Lindstrom. Don't sleep on Brock Hoffman, by the way. That could be a good one. Earl Bostic, the Kansas tackle, makes sense to me. 2 interior linemen, Quinton Bohanna, Isaac Alarcon, Tyrus Wheat, the edge rusher, Malik Jefferson, who at linebacker, although I am now realizing I meant to make that Isaiah Land. Either way, Jefferson, Land, asterisks, you guys know what I mean. Miles Brooks, and then 2 Cowboys safeties, Tyler Coyle and Wanye Thomas. So we'll go Jefferson / Isaiah Land because I do think he's a good player to monitor as a UDFA. All right, who here is going to be watching the Cowboys' first preseason game? Hopefully with us here at the Cowboys Report. Let's change that L3 there too, Chris. Y for yes, N for no. I believe there were a few more super chats that came in, although I have lost them all on the dashboard side, which is a weird bug from YouTube there. I think I see a couple of the... I see a couple of... If we can't find them, I have found them on mine. Okay, here we go. Perfect. From Mark, $5 again. Thank you, Mark. Is David Durden, who got a ton of college sacks, he was undrafted, was huge still, looking good. Mark did clarify he meant Tyrus Wheat, the outside linebacker. I've got my notes here. Let me pull up my NFL draft notes, because I think you're not talking about the edges. Go to that $2 one, too, by the way, Chris, about Land or about Tyrus Wheat. So Wheat had, because I did my draft notes, I think I got a 5th round grade on Wheat. Let's see here. Oh, load, you lame-o. Wheat had 6 sacks, 7 sacks. Also, it's pronounced Tyrus. Tyrus. Okay, I was saying it right. Not the best sacks production, 6, 7.5. Land, I think that's who you're thinking of. Isaiah Land at FAMU had, make sure I get the right numbers here. He had 19 in 2021. 7.5 last year, 8 games played versus 12 games played in 2021. Cowboys working him as a linebacker, which I find interesting, kind of in that, maybe that more of that hybrid role. He's 6'3", 236, so he's really light to be a full-time edge, kind of more of a tweener there. But I would keep an eye on both those guys, Wheat and Land, on defense in the first preseason game. Jose Hernandez, would you sign Brandon Cooks for 3 years to give a solid wide receiver 1 and 2 to keep that window open for Dak? Part of me is curious, how does Gallup fare this year? Brandon Cooks is finally going to be 30 right around week 3 or something, but he does have 2 years left on his deal, so I think the Cowboys will be okay from that perspective. So I wouldn't be opposed to it because you keep Lamb, and if Gallup emerges, great. You got 3 young players, and Cooks took a pay cut. Maybe he'd sign a pretty cheap deal. Joseph Rodriguez, who do you want as kicker for the long term? Well, I think long term is kind of out the window. It's August. You don't have one yet. You're not going to find one most likely. Short term, I'm going to be patient, which I know is not a fun answer, because there's Crosby and Gould, who are also not long-term options. I think your best available option is going to come available around roster cutdown time. Nick Folk and Chad Ryland are both not going to make the Patriots roster. One of those guys will be available. Commanders have 2 kickers fighting for a job. The Bucks, the Niners have Zane Gonzalez and Jake Moody. They're not going to keep both players. So if you're just patient, you will see a good kicker come available right around a roster cutdown time. Now it is time to make sure you are subscribed. Cowboys versus Jags preseason watch party. We are going to sign off for today. We will be back live again, barring more chaotic news, on Saturday. We'll be live before the first preseason game. We'll do a little pregame show. Make sure you're subscribed, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now.